a quick, little detour, take a little quote unquote halftime break of talking about the teams that are remaining in the tournament and talk about some of these coaching changes that have been coming out over the last few weeks. Just to name a few, we have Rick Pitino leaving Iona. He is heading back to the Big East. He will take over at St. John's. Ed Cooley, didn't think he'd ever leave Providence. Well, he did, and he's heading to DC to take control of the Georgetown Hoyas. Tobin Andersen, who we're all introduced to about 3 weeks ago as the head coach of Fairleigh Dickinson, he will replace Rick Pitino at Iona. In the most obvious fill of a coaching vacancy, we saw Rodney Terry become official at Texas. So he got rid of the interim tag. He will be the head coach going forward. On that same vein, we saw Chris Beard, who of course was fired earlier in the year because it's a domestic violence. He's been picked up by Ole Miss. And Micah Shrewsberry, really good. He had a really, really good season and a good career at Penn State, a team that does not usually do well in basketball, had them into the second round this year. He is heading to Notre Dame to take over for the longtime coach Mike Bray, who just retired. Raider Jim, we'll start with you. Your thoughts on the kind of the coaching carousel we've seen so far in college basketball.
Yeah, I'll start top to bottom with your list. Pitino going to St. John's, good thing. And he got a little bit of a head start thanks to UConn, because UConn kind of got them out of the tournament real quick. So he got to start his work right away, and he's already been, apparently, they said he's already started to regionally do his recruiting. Within hours of the announcement, Pitino was very upfront and said, hey, most of the guys that are here on the squad, this, 2022, 23, not going to be here next year. They're not a good fit. So he's already made that statement, which is good for him. It's his team. But wow, he's really setting himself up for quite a preseason work that he has to do now and bring in these recruits or get people into the transfer portal. But he's got, 7 Final Four appearances, 2 national champions. Resume speaks for itself. You just don't want him to be the person that is responsible for lining up dating and things for the recruits when they come to town, because that's when the trouble begins. Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it.
I love it. I love the shot at Pitino. I love it. Go ahead.
And then Cooley going to Georgetown. Let me tell you, Cooley, great guy. 2022 Big East Coach of the Year. Respectable, very respectable at Providence. 5 tournament appearances. Run to the Sweet 16, 2021, 22. I'm telling you what, it's kind of, I shouldn't say easy, but it is pretty easy to walk in behind Patrick Ewing and say, I'm going to make this team better. Heck, I think the 3 of us could do that. So watch for Georgetown to turn it around pretty good. Coach Cooley said the hardest thing for him, because he does consider Providence his family, was to sit down, express his wishes and desires to the president of Providence and literally get his blessings, because the president of Providence is Reverend Kenneth Sicard. And Reverend Sicard told him, no problem, I understand, and Georgetown can offer you something that we can't offer here, and that is you'll be on the campus with my daughter, who is currently a Hoya. So I thought it was a very professional, respectful way that they conducted their business. Tobin Andersen, FDU to Iona. He's got a lot of D2, D3 experience. He did a good job with Fairleigh Dickinson. Pitino did lead the Gales to the top of the Atlantic Athletic Conference. So he does have his work cut out for him, because the bar's been set there. Let's see how many guys hang around the Iona team and how many want to follow Coach Pitino. What's the recruiting going to be like? Kind of set up hard for him, but I think he'll do pretty good. He's obviously proved he can coach and coach well. Rodney Terry, my only thing is what took so long.
Yeah,
that guy was set in on some of the most adverse circumstances and did such a good job. They should have made this offer before the tournament started, if you ask me. And quite honestly, I even think the offer, albeit fair tenure at 5 years, the pay structure, I think he deserved a little bit more there too. Success to him, years to come. What a great guy, what a great coach. He obviously showed Doesn't matter what the conditions are. I'm here to coach basketball and put a good team on the floor. So congratulations to him. Chris Beard, The only thing about this move is even now, it's like the first 3, 4 articles I go to read about this. It starts out with him saying, "That's not my character. There's 2 sides to the story. And everybody needs to know what really happened." Hey, what are you going to do with this dump of a program you're taking over? These guys were terrible, and they're in a loaded conference.
Yeah.
So at some point, guy, you're going to have to put it behind you, because I can't see people jumping into the transfer portal to come to Ole Miss and be part of your team. And I can't see a lot of parents wanting their kids to make that move either. So we'll see what happens with him. If he could just, it's got to be up to him first, though, to leave it behind. Matter of fact, go ahead and take the position with the press. Hey, I'm done talking about it. I'm here to talk about Ole Miss. So that's my thought on that. Shrewsberry going over to Notre Dame. Notre Dame, thank God they're a football team, football school, not a basketball school. They had a very disappointing season this year. The coach, I think, he was like that teacher in your high school that when you were a freshman, people still said, "Oh, I don't want to get on his class." But by the time you were a senior, he was retiring. So he just, hey, let's just get through the school year and we'll be done. This guy's got his work cut out for him as well. I hope he does well. He's got a hard road ahead of him.
Yeah, it's not easy. But at the same time, I think it's a perfect little parallel for Shrewsberry. You're going from Penn State, which is first and foremost a football school, to Notre Dame, which is first and foremost a football school. So now I will say the Irish have had more success on the hardwood than Penn State have, at least in recent years. But it is going to be you're kind of second fiddle in those situations. So that's unfortunate for him. But he does know how to handle that. And I think he's going to be really good. The only thing that I want to add is the Rodney Terry. I agree with you. I cannot believe that it took and it makes me feel like he had to hit, like there was pressure, in terms of, if we don't make the Sweet 16, we're looking elsewhere. And if that's the case, I mean, that's totally just disingenuous, and I think a terrible way to kind of start a professional partnership. And once again, I'm not saying that's the case, but that's what it looks like from the outside. If you don't have this guy locked up before the tournament starts, it makes me believe that there was a target you needed him to hit, or he was going to be fired. Now, obviously he hit whatever that was, if there is one, but I think that was still completely unfair for him. I think as a coach as well, there were a few people who kind of, maybe bah humbugged this because of what happened in that Elite Eight game. But I'll tell you this right now, Texas shot the lights out in the first half. I think Miami shot 55% in the first half and we're down by 8. Eventually, the 3-pointers are going to stop falling. And unfortunately, in the second half for Texas, they did. That's not in coaching. That's not on really anything. It's just kind of one of those things where, wow, we started 10 of 15 from 3 in the first half. Shoot, we're not going 10 of 15 in the second half. Unfortunately, that was the case for them. But Coach, what are your thoughts on the coaching carousel that we've seen so far?
Yeah, I think the rumors were out well before the tournament about Pitino and Cooley. Congratulations to Rodney Terry. I'll just leave it at that. I mean, you guys spoke enough in regard to him, but that's not the end of this carousel. Earlier this week, Dave Odom at Utah State leaves for VCU. I guess he just got tired of getting beat by State. The rumors of Pitino Jr. leaving New Mexico to South Florida. Again, just can't figure it out what they got to do to beat State. So, rumors abound. Coaches, this is that time of the year where it's the hot stove of coaching. And, Pitino and Cooley, they're in great positions because of the name value their universities offer, especially with the transfer portal, especially with both their reputations on that East Coast. So, expect big things from these two teams moving forward. And it is what it is. Again, it's that time of the year. But congratulations or congrats to Rodney Terry. We all know what he did at Fresno State. I think the acumen and the resume is fitting for Texas. But are we really surprised it took this long? After we see what they do to their football coaches. I mean, that's a hot spot, and if you don't produce early, you're gone before that contract expires. And for them not to offer them early, it really isn't a surprise to me, but it is frustrating, and it is disheartening, and it is kind of like what you said, disingenuous. If the parameters were set, get to this round, and you stay or don't, and you're gone, and we're looking for the next guy. But how many next guys are out there? There's not that many next guys out there. St. John's for Pitino is kind of like the retirement run. Cooley isn't the Texas guy. Those are the top two names that are out there. I don't see anyone else looking at a Texas job, whether it's a big name blue blood guy like Calipari. He wouldn't take that job. And they've already kind of tested their wit with, the youthful guy like Shaka Smart. So I think, it's only fitting for Rodney. And if he were to say, "Hey, look, I'm going to go look elsewhere," there's not that many jobs either, of this magnitude, name value wise, especially going into the SEC in the next couple of years, having that booster support and that NIL abundance in the back pocket. I mean, it's a good move for him, and yeah, it's about time. But congratulations more than anything.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting going forward for a lot of these coaches. Be very interesting that first Georgetown Providence game in Rhode Island to just see the reaction. I hope there's a nice moment to give him Ed Cooley his due, but I'm sure once that game tips off, he'll be quote unquote the enemy, and it's kind of best of luck in 30 of your 32 games, because the two you play against us, we're going to hope to beat you, but it'll be
You're
very
right.
interesting going forward. But